People across this country grow up with romantic notions about leaving their small towns and heading to the big city. Places like New York and Los Angeles have this draw with their promises of constant excitement, activity, and culture. Some would balk at the idea of spending over 20 years of their life in sleepy little towns around western Pennsylvania. But like other small towns all over these United States, they are home to many unique people, places, and traditions. I spent a good part of 2012 traveling around the small towns I grew up in. These are the stories I found along the way. After the novelty of the holidays wear off, the ice and slush of winter seems to stay too long. The beautiful snow becomes a hindrance to work and recreation alike. When it was too cold for their horses to leave the stable, one group of local cowboys found a way to still have fun by simply chasing a different animal. What does a cowboy do when he's all out of cows? He ropes goats instead. Circle Z-Bar Ranch keeps cowboys and cowgirls busy when it's too cold to go outside. They hold the largest goat roping event in the state of Pennsylvania.
Why goats?
Oh, they're affordable, and they work for what we like to do. And I mean, I know guys that rope sheep, pigs, lambs. The goats seem to work for us here at the ranch.
To add to the excitement, they time each contestant. I watched as goat after goat after goat got away. Somebody even caught his by the ear. One roper told me the trick is to move with your goat, stay beside him, then tie him. But if you can't keep up with the goats, you can try dummy roping instead. The cowboys race to tie up wooden animals. The fastest wins, and not just bragging rights.
Falling on my butt, 16-0!
They win cash. And those who don't compete have just as much fun watching.
What does it take to win? Is it about speed or is it about focus?
Mostly about getting back up off the ground once you fall. Mostly is what it takes to win here tonight anyways, but just a lot of practice.
Now, have you been to other events here at the ranch?
No, this is my first time here.
Do you think you're going to come back?
Oh, yeah.
Goat roping runs through March, and just about anyone can enter.
Because of the weather in this part of the country, you're limited. So this way, everybody can still get together. Camaraderie of everybody that likes to rope gives us something to do.
So when winter keeps you inside the barn, remember to visit Circle Z-Bar Ranch, where cowboys don't need to rope cows. At last, winter gives in and the cold gives way to warmer weather. Streams swell as melting snow and ice feed into them. 2012 had some truly spectacular spring weather. Having grown up on a farm, I took this as a chance for another story. Even though I have witnessed many springs, seeing it through the lens of a camera made me realize just how magnificent it is. These two can't help celebrating the arrival of spring. A time for lawnmowers, dandelions, and new life, including life in the ground. Joe Ligo has looked forward to spring for nearly 50 years. This year's burst of warm weather allowed farmers in the fields early. It's in the sight of a baby calf's first steps. The sound of newborn kittens snuggled in the hay, and the smell of freshly turned earth. Spring gives us all new life. As spring ends and the school year does too, the local streets fill with kids happy to be out of the classroom. A new sight caught the attention of many in this busy town. While sidewalk vendors may compete for the streets in New York, this one-man monopoly quickly won over New Wilmington. Rodney Stevens has a solution for high food prices.
Just about anybody can afford a hot dog.
A former Army cook and construction worker, a recent car accident left Stevens without work.
I'm no longer able to do the construction field, so I decided to start a vending business.
His stainless steel cart seems better suited for the streets of New York than New Wilmington. But locals have taken a fancy for the Frankfurters. Each day around lunchtime, a line forms under his blue and white umbrella. Stevens keeps it simple. Nothing costs over $4.
I wanted to produce something that was economically feasible for college kids in the surrounding community.
Not only college kids appreciate a quick, hot lunch.
When we have about 10 minutes for lunch, it's a great place to go.
Few can pass up his freshly cooked dogs, especially at $1.25 each.
It's the all-American food, you know, apple pie, hot dogs, and baseball.
That all-American food continues to grow his customer base, too.
Are hot dogs your favorite food?
Yeah!
Summer continues back on the farm, and so does the work. The sun shines down on greedy plants that grow more each day. Remember our baby kittens from this spring? Well, they've grown too. These lost kittens need their mom. And Mom has searched for them all morning. Growing up on a farm presents many dangers for these cats. No flea collars, worm medication, or rabies shots. No human could ever catch one, let alone take it to a vet. And yet, in the face of such odds, they survive. They thrive, actually. Mom provides all the protection they need. Even when they're lost in the hay, she finds them and makes sure they're safe. Soon, these cute little felines begin to grow toward adulthood. Instead of crowding under here, they fight for a place at the food dish. Some may even leave the farm for good. But for now, they still need their mom. She's right, after all. You just can't leave the barn with your fur looking like that. With hay in the barn and kids going back to school, summer winds down. With September approaching, a local landmark prepared to celebrate a big anniversary. 2012 marks the bicentennial for the Volant mills. The mill and the surrounding area have weathered many storms in the past 200 years, including the current economic downturn. The building that once ground grain now serves as a general store and central hub of the town. Karen ROCKENSTEIN showed me around this rainy Saturday morning. She says Volant stayed vibrant over the years because it offers something different to people.
We've tried to have the types of shops and the type of merchandise that you can't find other places. We know we can't compete with the big stores, so we don't try to.
Those offerings include local seasonal produce, old-timey knickknacks, handmade crafts, and fresh-made Amish donuts.
You can't eat just one. You'll be back again and again after you try, and there's nothing like a hot donut.
As if that weren't enough to make anybody come here, ROCKENSTEIN plans to get the mill running again.
We are trying to restore our grinding equipment and hopefully produce a little buckwheat flour.
They've made great progress, but the work takes time.
And it's a great old building, but I've learned a lot in terms of the mechanics and the history of what's involved. It's simple, but precise.
It's satisfying to know that long after the War of 1812 and the fall of Napoleon's empire, the citizens of Volant have come together to fix their mill and maybe make a little bit of buckwheat flour too. Unlike some big cities, Western PA has plenty of hills and trees. As autumn breaks, the countryside suddenly fills with brilliant displays of color. The warm fall breezes gently shake the trees and create piles of dazzling leaves. It's almost enough reason to start reciting poetry.
O wild west wind, thou breath of autumn's being, thou from whose unseen presence the leaves dead are driven, like ghosts from an enchanter fleeing.
In 1819, the poet Percy Shelley stood captivated by the colors of autumn in the Italian countryside. Such was the inspiration for his work, Ode to the West Wind. But this time of year, you don't have to live in Florence to enjoy the beauty of nature. But what causes the trees to put on such a show? Why do they suddenly abandon the tenacious greens of summer in favor of such bold new colors? Westminster College biology professor Dr. Anne Throckmorton says some of the colors were there all along.
Underneath that green, there's yellow and there's orange. We just don't see it. And so until the green starts to disappear in the fall, which happens fairly early, you don't see those yellows and those oranges.
Some colors, the darker reds and browns, depend upon the weather. Made of pigments called anthocyanins, it takes cool, sunny conditions to produce such characteristic hues.
So what the plant actually does is it takes some of the sugars that is stored up, breaks those sugars down, and uses them to make the red pigment.
Yellow and black and pale and hectic red, pestilence-stricken multitudes, O thou who chariotest to their dark, wintry bed.
Whether you're in the Italian countryside or the streets of New Wilmington, the display never seems to last long enough. But they will return in time.
O wind, if winter comes, can spring be far behind?
The Christmas season seems to fill us all with a desire for tradition. We listen to the same songs and eat the same foods and hang up the same battered ornaments every year. Those living near Hermitage, Pennsylvania add another tradition to that list. The sheer number of toys for sale at Cranax could overwhelm a child. Tractors and board games and blasters and bears and cars and stuffed animals. But the biggest attraction of this Hermitage retailer doesn't even have a price tag. The Cranax walk-through display, known as Santa's Christmas Land, has attracted customers to the store since 1963.
The store started as a garden center, and they were wondering what they were going to do in the winter months. Of course, there's not a lot of business, so they decided to try some Christmas trees and Christmas decorations, and they started displaying their decorations on a few trees, purchasing a few pieces of animation, and that's how the display got started.
The display features different holiday scenes with everything from the North Pole to popular children's characters, and lots of music. Every year showcases a completely new display. However, one theme remains constant.
The last room is always a nativity. We always display the true meaning of the season.
In this little corner of the world, rows of new toys can only captivate children for a moment, for they are distracted by thousands of twinkling lights, waving elves, dangling snowflakes, and a familiar old story. I have nothing against the big city, but having grown up out here, I've developed a natural bias. There's something about the trees and the streams, the farms and the fields, and most of all, the places and the people that make this little slice of America unique. So I encourage you to stop by next time you travel past a small town, and I hope you come back with some stories of your own.